What does fashion mean to you?
Freedom of self-expression. Well, the dance company really existed to get young people off the streets. I ran a dance company for 15 years. I wanted it to help others. Unfortunately, I was diagnosed with breast cancer at 30 years old. Everything in that moment changed. Seeing how Black women are also treated in the healthcare system. I then set up my charity, Black Women Rising. It's probably the most hardest thing I've ever done. I think the biggest thing I have realized is how difficult it is as a Black woman speaking up for Black women's health. I have been faced with racial abuse. If you do not start putting some boundaries up and looking after yourself, you can no longer do the work. I learned I had to put boundaries up.
In what way will you say, have you been able to leverage your own personal sense of style to do all the things you've done?
My blazers. Everyone knows I'm gonna come with a colored blazer. They'll say, I was waiting for you because I want to see what color blazer you're wearing. What that does is it builds conversation and it builds personality. I think I spent so much time, particularly before cancer, trying to blend into the background. Now, as I'm coming into my own and I've built my confidence, it's like if I want to wear some color, I'm gonna wear color. This is the most freest and at peace I felt in my life.
This episode is brought to you by 1219 Styles. For quality bespoke suits crafted to perfection, all from the comfort of your home. Schedule a virtual measurement today at www.1219styles.co.uk.
Welcome to another episode of Threads and Profits, where fashion, style, and creativity, they hum it together. And so today I have a very beautiful, the beautiful Leanne on my seat today for this episode. So good afternoon. It's nice to meet you, and I'm glad we're doing this.
Thanks, Michael.
All right, so can we get to meet you, Leanne?
Yeah, sure. What do you want to know? Just a little bit about me?
A little bit about you and how did your journey started, and how did you get to this very point that you're doing all of the things you're doing? The movement factory, you raising funds for the younger people, the charity work you do with the woman with cancer. So how did all of this, how did it get started? And yeah.
Wow, it's a bit of a long story, but yeah, I guess I was homeless at 13 years old. So I had quite a colourful childhood, and I went through a lot of things at a really young age. And I went and lived with my dad, who I was estranged from. And I suddenly realised overnight that I had to become an adult. And one of the things at 13, and one of the things that really, really helped me was that attached to my school was a dance. It was a youth club, and they had a dance teacher there. And so I had been in that dance centre since I was about 11 years old. So when I was made homeless, dance was really that thing I really looked forward to. And I say I was made homeless, I went and moved with my dad, who like I said, I didn't really have a relationship with. I didn't really know very well. And I guess dance was something that just really kept me positive at a time in my life where things were quite negative. And where I also had to grow up quite quickly. I think the two of those things really worked really well, because by the time I got to 15, I was also teaching my own dance classes. So they had recognized that I had natural leadership skills, as they said. And they were like, we would like you to start teaching, especially at times when the dance teacher's no longer here. And eventually she ended up leaving because she had to go and travel. And they gave me her dance class. So that's how I started teaching at a really young age. So from 15, I started teaching my own classes because they identified me as a natural leader. And I guess that's where not just my dance company began, but I think my leadership journey began in its entirety, but also my business journey, And so that's what I've done. I ran a dance company for 15 years. I ran a dance company for 15 years. Well, the dance company really existed to get young people off the streets into something positive. And for me, it was not just about the dance. It was a social thing for young people, me included. It was something to give kids something to focus on other than being on the streets. And so that's why it was there. It was just there as a tool to help people because it helped me so much. I wanted it to help others. And we got to do these incredible things, perform in incredible places, lots of wonderful opportunities, and it was fantastic. So I was running that for 15 years, and then obviously got to 30, and unfortunately, I was diagnosed with breast cancer at 30 years old, which came as quite a shock because I was very fit, I was very healthy. I am one of 4 sisters, and out of all of them, I was the one that led a very active and healthy life. But my mum has had breast cancer twice before, and so I, at 30 years old, also found my own lump, and I got tested and I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And as I say, up until that point, I'd run this company for 15 years. I had looked after myself, up until that point as well. And everything in that moment changed. I had to take a year out to have my treatment. So I had both of my breasts removed to remove the tumors. I went through 8 rounds of chemotherapy. Everything you hear about breast cancer treatment, I had. So I had to take a year off, to go through that and then recover. And so everything in that year, in that time, I also turned 31. In that year, my whole life changed. Everything changed. My belief system about life, my belief system about working, and everything changed for me. But one of the biggest things that changed for me was seeing, I guess, in that moment, how important health is. But on another side, seeing how Black women are also treated in the healthcare system. And it gave me this opportunity to look at actually where we lack as a society and how we treat Black women when diagnosed with, it could be cancer, it could be in maternity, it could be all different health issues. But I saw that in that moment when I took that year off, how important my health was and how having cancer interrupted every other thing in my life, my social life, my working life, everything. But it also gave me this purpose of wanting to make some change. Because when I was diagnosed, I didn't see many other Black women. It was when I got deeper in my treatment and I started to go around to try and get extra support, I was meeting more and more Black women. And I started asking people, like, what are they going through? And a lot of them were saying the same thing as me. There was a lot of medical misogyny, happening. There was a lot of issues with their healthcare professionals. There's no understanding cultural beliefs wise. In their communities, a lot of people were not accepting, their illnesses. Because I do believe, like, particularly in the Black community, there's a lot of deeply ingrained myths and taboos around cancers and illness. So lots of women were not allowed to be around their families when they were being diagnosed. So we all grouped together. And as a result, I then set up my charity, which is called Black Women Rising. So I stand here today. I'm now 8 years cancer-free. I have a charity now called Black Women Rising, which is now 6 years old, and next year I will be, this year I will be 40. And then next year, my dance company, which I still run, will be turning 25. So it's this incredible journey, I think, of business, leadership, health, equity, and I guess hope as well, just to add that on, that you can go through all these things and still be standing at the end. And that's what I'm about. So sorry, it's a bit of a long-winded story, but
this is why we're here as well, to have like these conversations, because listening to your own story, I'm here seated there like, thinking, oh, I'm going through the worst. And I'm listening to your own story as well. And indeed, I'm finding hope. And I'm very sure that is why you do the things you do as well. Thank you one more time for coming and sharing this part of you. Okay. Yeah, you're welcome. Dance Factory will be 25 years this year. Let's peel it out one by one. So when we get to touch on everything, what made you say you're going to take it as a business, and more like the first steps of you, or the very first few years of you starting it as a business? What was it like for you, especially at a young age you started it?
I didn't start out wanting to start a business at 15. A lot of people always say that's very impressive. It wasn't on purpose. It was that I was asked to do these classes and they said, we have to pay you because, at the time, I didn't realize at the time, but they were like, if you're going to be in a position of leadership, we have to pay you, and this was their rules. This was the youth center's rules. So they were like, but we need to set you up. So I didn't know at the time about self-employment and all these things. And they were like, do you know about self-employment? And I was like, no, I'm 15. I've literally just left high school. Like, I don't have a clue about all of these things. And so they sort of mentored me around self-employment and how it worked. And so I had to set up as self-employed. I then wanted to try and put on like dance shows. And so obviously with the dance show, you have to sell tickets and all of that stuff. So a lot of it was learning as I went along, that I didn't realize that I needed to set up like a business bank account, for example, so that people would buy the tickets, because at that time, think about it, 25 years ago, there wasn't really like online systems that you could, pay for tickets. People were like paying you in your bank, or you would go to no, they weren't even paying you in your bank. They were literally giving you money. So that at the end of the night, you'd have like a cash flow. I remember our little cash boxes, and then all the money would be in there. And then at the end of the night, you'd literally go and then you'd be like, there's like £600 in this box, and it's like, oh my God, I have to go and put this in the bank the next day. And you'd have like all the £1 and the £2 and counting out, and then you'd get the money bags. That was my life at the beginning. And so, there was all of that. And then there was this incredible opportunity for me at the time because of my age and because of the work I was doing in the community. Lots of the government authorities were coming to me saying, do you want to apply for grants? Because at that time, there was a lot of money out there. Lots of people never believe me when I tell you, but for young entrepreneurs, there was money that you could get that could help you set up your business. So thankfully, I had the setup. So it was never a thing that I was like, I'm going to set up my own business. It was that the things I was doing required me to have certain business processes. Everything else I learned on the job. I learned on the job via mistakes. So for example, when I will never forget one of the incidences when a parent came and tried to attack me because I didn't allow their child to be in the front of a dance class. So this happened to me when I was 17. A parent tried to come to the dance class and attack me. And so that required my mentors to go, hold on, we need to put certain policies in place to safeguard you. We need to put safeguarding practices in place. So these are all the things I learned on the job, making mistakes, going through really hard things. That's how I learned. I will never forget when, the people that were funding us, so we were part of a parent organization, and that parent organization used to give us a certain amount of money to run dance classes for them. Well, the money ran out. And so we had to put on like a big fundraising show. And I'll never forget, someone came and they said, you need to set up a contingency fund. And I was like, what's that? What's that? And that was learning that actually all the money we made from like the classes and all the subs and stuff, we need to make sure that we put some aside for if this was ever to happen again. So it was all these little things that I learned. And I was like, okay, this was happening. It wasn't like, oh, I went out and learned before I started. It was like, I actually have such a passion for this. And I guess, you know what, if I'm being honest, it's the passion that kept me going, because it was I just think business is hard. It's so hard. It still is hard. I still go through such hardships through business. I've
After
just
25 years.
Oh, 100%. 100%. But it's the passion that still keeps me going, and the belief system. I love it. If I didn't, I would have stopped it. But also, you still go through hardship, but I have developed myself enough to deal with it. So I think with businesses, and I always talk about businesses, me being in business, so I don't call myself an entrepreneur, I call myself a social entrepreneur, because I run 2 charitable programs that have social values. So these 2 businesses are not about making profit. All the profit I make from both my businesses goes back and invests in the community. That's how my businesses work. But what I will say is the same principles align. You need money to come through the door. You need to fundraise, and you need to build your team, and you need staff. All of those things are the world of business, and every single aspect of that is hard. And anyone that says it's not, they're lying. It is hard. No matter if you've got a business for social reasons or you have a business for profit, it is hard.
True. Aside from the time you took out a break for the health reason, was there at any point through those 25 years you took a break just to pause and say, I want to reset?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was. Before that, so 3 years before, I felt really depressed. So I was in a relationship for 10 years that came to an end. So this was the person I was with from when I was a teenager. And the relationship came to an end, and I really went through a lot of depression. And I worked the whole way through that depression. And then when it got to the summer, because I was teaching classes, so I was working in terms of school terms, because that's how usually if you're a freelance dance teacher or whatever, you kind of work in the school terms. And so when it came to the summer term, when all the kids break up from school, I was like, I'm not going to take on any dance classes or anything like that for the summer term. I'm actually just going to take that time off. And I'll never forget, I started and I ended up not just taking 6 weeks off. I took about 12 weeks off.
Wow.
So it was like 3 months. And again, just using the principles, I had a contingency fund
Okay.
that kept me for those, I think it was 4 months I took off in total. So yes, 3, 4 months, 12 weeks, 3 months. And I made sure I had money just to pay my basic expenses. And I took that time off just to breathe. And it was the best thing I'd ever done. Because I hadn't had a moment where I safely took time off. And I did that all at the summer term. And that was quite game changing for me, because what that did was it gave me that permission to remind myself that I had been working so hard since 15. And this was at 27, I had this break. I was like, I need to learn to give myself permission to rest and enjoy joy. Because I hadn't done that. I was too busy working on this rat race all the time. And it was so important for me just to take a break. And I did that. And I enjoyed that time off. I ended up going to Ibiza with friends for the first time. I just allowed myself. I was going to the park with friends every day. I would say that's probably one of my best summers I've ever had. So, yeah.
So nice to hear that, because I speak for myself. I've noticed that, and which I know is the story of most entrepreneurs as well, that there is actually no day off.
Yeah.
The staffs close.
Yeah.
They probably shut down their laptop at 5 p.m. They
Yeah.
get to do other things.
Yeah.
But here is you, who is the leader.
Yeah.
12 a.m. midnight. This is the one thing you're thinking about. And the next morning, it is still the same continuous thought of what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
If I go for a run,
I know, I go through this.
and I'm very sure there are a lot of people who look back to your classes as well, and they say, I'm grateful. I'm
all the time.
grateful I was part of this class, and this has changed my own life.
Yeah.
And I would say at age 40, you've lived a very purposeful and a fulfilling life.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
Yeah, really proud. Yeah, really proud. And I guess grateful. Like, I'm so grateful to God. I'm grateful for my life, and I'm grateful to be here today to tell the story. Yes, I have so many students that were part of the dance. We've got doctors, lawyers, people that, have incredible careers, mothers, fathers, who now say, if I didn't have that dance or that safe space, I wouldn't be here now. And for me, that fills me with so much joy, because that's what it was about. For me, it wasn't about building successful dancers. It was about building successful people who can enjoy life. And that is now the same with the charity, Black Women Rising. It's not about just getting through the disease. Of course, we know most people are going to get through the disease. Most people are going to come out the other end, and that is the truth. But what happens next? How are you going to get back to you again? And so for me, that's always been about why my work is so important to me, because it really is about building stronger people.
Wow. So the process about 15 years ago was when you started or 10, the charity was 10 or 15.
So the charity is now officially 6.5 years old.
Oh, yeah.
But I really started kind of straight away after my diagnosis, really, because when I think about the group that I set up, the first one, we weren't a charity, and that was almost a year after treatment. So really, I've been doing this since 2018. So when you think about it, this kind of work and advocacy, 2018, wow. I mean, that's 7 years. So yeah, 7, 8 years,
What are like the challenges you've faced in the charity work you've been doing for Black rising women?
I would say there's been a lot of challenges. It's probably the most hardest thing I've ever done. It's the most rewarding thing I've ever done. It's the most hardest thing. I think the biggest thing I have realized is how difficult it is as a Black woman speaking up for Black women's health. I have been faced with racial abuse. I have been accused of lying about some of the experiences that we've gone through. I have been, like I say, trolled. I have been criticized for the work from all sides of the coin. So it could be definitely other races, or it could even be people within our own community, We've often been like the underdogs when it comes to winning funding or contracts. People don't take us seriously enough. So this could be like, funding from outside bodies, that there might be funding for certain charities and stuff like that. We won't get it. Same with public funding. If we put on events and want to fundraise, we know that we're not going to raise loads of money, because unfortunately, events like ours are not appealing for people to, or the cause that we're doing, not appealing for people to donate to. Not all. There are some incredible people out there that donate to our charity, but actually as a whole, if you were to put, us as a Black charity against a white-led charity and put 2 fundraisers there, I guarantee that white charity will always get probably 100 times more support than we will. And that's something I've had to realize, setting up a charity for Black women. And I never knew that it was going to be like that. So what comes along with that, and what I boil it down to, is safety, always. So it could be every little thing I have to think about. So whatever I might put online, it could be if I agree to do a television interview, if it means if I'm going on the radio, a podcast, this or that. I have to really script what I'm going to say. I have to be mindful of the attention that I might get back. And so it's difficult. It's not easy. But what keeps me going is seeing how many lives we've been able to touch through the charity. That's what keeps me going. It's the women who are involved in the charity and they're like, listen, this has changed my life. That's what keeps me going. If those women didn't exist, would I be doing the work I'd be doing? Hell no. It's too hard. It's very, very difficult. And it's not taking everything out of me, because it definitely hasn't, but it's taken me to completely change not just my life, but my lifestyle and my mindset, to put me into this leadership version of myself, in able to do all the things that we need to do for the charity.
How do you manage with the criticism and the trolling and all the things you see people do or say?
Yeah.
How do you manage that?
I'll tell you something. First and foremost, I got used to it. That's a really bad thing to say. But when I talk to other people, it could be someone who's high profile or something like that, and I talk to them about criticism, they say the same thing. Eventually, you kind of get used to it, which isn't a good thing, but you kind of learn how to block it out. The second thing for me was in 2021, I got really, really unwell from it mentally. I think I experienced one too many knocks. I got criticized too much, I think. And not just from a public perspective, but also when you're helping that many people, everybody wants a piece of you and everyone wants a piece of that help. And I didn't know how to manage it. And I got so unwell, I ended up taking 3 months off in 2021 just to deal with my mental health because I was not well. And it was a combination of things. It was like not just the work, but it was just giving myself too much, doing exactly what we said, not taking a break.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my God, I've been there before. This has happened before. This happened when I was 27. And guess how old I was in 2021? 37.
Oh my God.
So I was like, hold on, 27, 37. Same thing happening. Tired, burnt out. This can't happen. And I'll never forget, it was my mum who's had cancer before, of course. And she said, if you do not start putting some boundaries up and looking after yourself, you can no longer do the work. And my mum's not a pushy person, but she turned around and said, I will come and shut the charity down myself. And I did. I spent 3 months, and I'll never forget, one of the biggest things I struggled with in that time, I had extreme anxiety. I thought I had experienced anxiety before. That was nothing like what I was experiencing at that time. And I remember I tried everything. And the one thing that really worked and calmed me was acupuncture. And acupuncture. So, you know, the needles that go into the body?
Yeah.
So I tried that and I had an immediate reaction. It worked. And so what it showed me was actually putting little self-care practices into my weekly life was something that I needed to do in order for me to almost heal myself and look after myself. So acupuncture became something that I done weekly. I still do it now. I went back into therapy to talk about all the things I was going through. And I spent 18 months with the most incredible therapist, not just talking about cancer, not just talking about my work, but also talking about my life. All the things I'd gone through, you know, moving out at 13, my relationship with my dad, all of these different things. Like I went into an incredible 18 months with a brand new therapist, which really transformed my mind. I started pouring into myself so much more, taking breaks, making sure that I stopped in the evenings, making sure that I took weekends off, making sure I had breaks in the diary and in the calendar. But if I'm being really honest with you, Michael, one of the biggest things I learned was saying no. I started to say no, whereas before I wasn't.
I think that's something I'm still learning to say no.
And it became addictive. It becomes addictive. Try it. I'm not even joking. It becomes addictive. Because what I realized in that time, when I took that time off and I was ill, I realized something. The same people I was helping were no longer knocking at my door. They weren't coming to me. I couldn't stay on my own during that time because I was suffering from anxiety. So I had to have people sort of on a rota staying with me here and there. You know, my friends came from outside London and stayed with me, you know, things like that. And then I thought, some of these friends are on my doorstep and they're not even staying with me. These are the same people I'm pouring into all the time. I learned I had to put boundaries up. I learned that I had to build a little bit more self-confidence and self-assurance to know that actually my friendship is not a guaranteed thing. It's a privilege. And so this can only be given to people who earn the right. And as a result, there's many people I don't speak to now to this day because I started saying no. And when you start saying no and putting those walls up, it's incredible the people you don't hear from. But I say this and I sit here now and able to tell you because actually I'm able to be on this podcast today because this is the most freest and at peace I felt in my life.
Because you've been saying no.
Because I've been saying no and because I've been putting myself and my needs first.
Wow. Wow. Do you still see dancing as work, or because now that you were saying, the things you take out time to do? For example, when I go for runs, it's a form of like self-care for myself.
Yeah.
And I know that for a lot of people,
yeah,
they see dancing as self-care as well. Like that is that place
that's something that they love fun with. Yeah.
Just lost myself whenever I'm in that space. Is it still the same for you?
I love that dance can take someone that's, you know, not really ever experienced those feelings of joy to being in a position to celebrate themselves and to feel confident and to express themselves freely. That's the stuff I love about dance, and that's the stuff what keeps me doing what I'm doing now.
Do you see what you're doing as a job or a calling?
A calling.
A calling.
Yeah.
That you're called to do.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you think if you are not doing any of this, there might be somebody else who might have taken the spots?
Not really. I think I've often said, what would I do if I wasn't doing any of this stuff? And I would always say I'd always say I wanted to be a beautician. So I love beauty and I love certain things. So I funnily enough, when I actually did to start, I went on a beauty course. I was going to do my beauty, and I only lasted 3 months because I got a massive contract that needed my attention dance wise. So I gave up that course. But what I would say is, I think when you're called to do something, it's just very naturally in you and you're just going to do it. And I think what everyone always says to me is that the stuff I've chosen to do is very natural to me because that's my personality. So lots of people often say to me all the time, oh, what you're doing is great. And I'm like, okay, yeah, great, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, why don't you ever celebrate what you're doing? And I'm like, because it's so naturally in me. It's just me. It's just who I am. God gave me this heart to give. God gave me this incredible purpose to fulfill on this earth. And I'm so grateful for that. It's just in me. I'm not trying to be someone I'm not. I couldn't do that. It just naturally is. So yes, I think that's been used as this incredible vehicle to help others and develop people in need. That's why I do what I do.
Well, it's been an amazing conversation so far.
Thank you.
We're bringing it down. We're bringing it back home now for us to round up. So this is where we meet the intersection between fashion and the creative industry.
Yeah.
And I know you as someone who has a own personal sense of style. The colors, the blazers.
Yes.
You do really well with your style. The course I am championing is to see how people can use that style as leverage to open doors for themselves, for them to actually be able to do what exactly is the core. Because you dressing well and having a sense of style is just one thing. It's just something that most likely comes natural to you. But beyond your own sense of style, there's the dance, there's the art that gives, there is the teacher, there's the mentor, there is the person that wants other people as well to rise up as well. So in what way will you say have you been able to leverage your own personal sense of style to do all the things you've done?
I guess one of the really great examples is for example, my blazers. I think about my blazers collection, and sort of everyone knows me now. If there's a corporate event or if I go and do a talk, everyone knows I'm going to come with a coloured blazer. So often now when I go to events and I see lots of people that are in my industry, they'll say, I was waiting for you because I want to see what colour blazer you're wearing. There's that. And I guess that's always great because it's a topic of conversation. People know and they can kind of be like, that's synonymous with Leanne. You know that she's going to wear this kind of coloured blazer. It wasn't on purpose. It wasn't something that happened. But I guess what that does is it builds conversation and it builds personality. And I think for me, one of the things about, fashion is about expression of self. For me, I think I spent so much time, particularly before cancer, trying to blend into the background. So often you would see me, I still do wear black, but it's because I like it, not because I'm trying to blend in. Now, as I'm coming into my own and I've built my confidence, it's like if I want to wear some color, I'm going to wear color. I'm going to experiment. And I guess that always makes you feel good about you. And that's what, for me, fashion, clothing, style, you see me with clothing bags now. It's always been for me around this freedom of expression, but also been a sense of where I'm at in my life as well, And so, yeah, I'm wearing colors at the moment because I feel great. You know, and I also just came back from such an inspirational trip to Ghana where I picked up some incredible pieces in the market and stuff. And I was like, actually, all these clothing, when I'm putting them on, they're making me feel good about myself. They're making me show up in a very different way, but also represent the culture of where I'm from, you know, and that kind of West African style and the feeling that I'm wearing clothes that have been tailored by someone, you know, that makes me feel proud. So everything is about showing up and building that personality.
Quickly, for you, what does fashion mean to you?
I think fashion means to me freedom of self-expression. And that is what's really all my clothes, all my outfits. That's what it means to me. Is it's that feeling of myself and being able to share that with the world even before I open my mouth.
Mm, interesting. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. If there is a young girl that is watching this, not knowing how to go about life, still trying to like figure it there, going through the outbreak, or just got diagnosed of cancer, what is one word we like to tell?
My biggest advice to anybody that might be struggling or anybody that thinks that they may have found something, you know, that isn't right in their body, make sure that you go and get the help that you need and go and get checked out. As I always say, especially when it comes to cancer, the earlier you get these things checked out and the earlier you are diagnosed, the better that you can get the help that you need.
Thank you so much. Thank you
Thanks,
for
Michael.
coming to do this. One more question. You were recognized by the king
Yes.
as one of the people
Mhm.
creating impact in the United Kingdom. How did that make you feel?
Very proud that the MBE came as such a surprise, but I felt very proud. I think the biggest thing that made me feel proud was that it was the community that nominated me. So what I was told was that lots of letters, hundreds of letters, had been written by people whose lives I may have touched or people who were impacted by my work. So I'm just so grateful for all of those letters and the recommendations. And picking up my MBE or being given my MBE was such a wonderful day. And my mum was very, very proud. So I was proud.
In that moment, did you feel like you're being rewarded?
Yeah,
What you-
definitely I did. And they make you feel like a queen in yourself. Like you get treated so well. And it was just such a wonderful day, a celebratory day. I'm very, very grateful.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There is a lot of more questions. Hopefully, at another time, we still get to touch up and have this conversation again. But thank you for coming.
Thank
and
you,
I
Michael.
appreciate it. Before you go, there's this game of play. It's a this or that game.
Yeah.
Just ask you quickly. For example, white or black.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, cool.
There. So London or Accra?
Ooh. Accra.
That's simple.
Yes, definitely.
Summer fashion or winter fashion?
Winter fashion.
Summer or winter season?
Winter. I know lots of people will not like that. Winter.
Nigerian jollof or Ghanaian jollof?
Ghanaian jollof
Fashion or style?
style.
Style. Thank you very much.